Welcome to Patrick's Scale Studio. My name is Patrick and I'll be your host. This will be build video number 3 for USS Lexington, CV-2 in 1/350th scale by Trumpeter. And what we're going to focus on is actually page 19 and a little bit of page 6. Why 19? Because we started there to begin with, and what that is the propeller shafts, propellers, and the rudder, and maybe not so much the propellers right now, and I'll explain why. But before I get into all of that, I wanted to show you all something really cool that came via eBay for me not too long ago. And it is Legends of Warfare Naval USS Lexington CV-2 from the 1920s to the Battle of Coral Sea in World War II by David Boyle. And it's only up to the Battle of the Coral Sea in World War II because that's when she was sunk. But we'll just go over and have a quick brief look through the pages here. Lots of writing, lots of pictures. And the majority of this book, it's split into a couple chapters, chapter 1 and 2. Chapter 1 dealing with everything up to World War II, which is absolutely, I'd say 99% of her entire career. And she went through quite a few really cool things. For instance, there was an entire town that lost power, and they sailed her up to a dock or pier right next to that town and wired up her electric plants and was able to power the entire town until they got the electricity fixed in that town. So that's pretty cool. There's some neat things here you'll see about what she looked like earlier on. It's got 8-inch twin turrets, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. Very, very narrow bow. The Trumpeter kit obviously is rung here with 4-bladed propellers. She had 3-bladed propellers throughout her entire career. You see some of the early aircraft complement. But really some fantastic pictures, some color pictures there of the aircraft complement. Just keep flipping through here. Obviously you're not going to see any color photos of USS Lexington, just for the simple fact that at the time it was quicker, easier, and better resolution with black and white photography. And that was actually something I had brought up in my last video, the build video 2, is you can actually kind of see where there is that almost like an angular intersection there between the extensions to the flight deck up at the bow. But all in all, just a fantastic book. There's a later on color scheme from 1941. She will have a slightly different color scheme than that, though, in the month of May in 1942. We'll go over and get into that here at a later date. Some of her aircraft complement there. And of course, after she was struck, come on, I'm just waiting for, and there you can see the crew. But yeah, absolutely fantastic book. Very well written, pictures are fantastic, and it's fairly inexpensive at $24.99 US dollars. So go ahead and put that aside here and pull up some other things here for you. So you heard me mention the 3-bladed propellers being correct, and the 4-bladed propellers provided in the kit not correct. So with the gold medal models photo etch set for USS Lexington, you get 4 of the correct propellers here. And that is the first time we will be using the photo etch from this set. Instructions are right there. We might get into shaping them during the set, but they're definitely not going to get installed on this set because they still have to paint the ship. So let me go ahead and get the ship. Alright, so looks like she's from an alternate universe right now where she survived World War II and went to a more modern color scheme there. This is all just Mr. Surfacer 1500. I coated the entire hull with it just to check for any kind of cracks or problems or anything else I needed to sand out. And yeah, I know there's a little bit of dust here and there that I will have to get at with about 1,000 grit, or maybe even finer than that. But all in all, I'm not too concerned about it. And I'm really happy with how everything has come out and turned out so far. So what I really wish about that alternate universe was that Trumpeter made a kit where the whole pieces went together perfectly. That not being the case, I still ended up with a pretty good result. So let me go ahead and put her aside now. And as you can see, our instructions are going to be a propeller shaft and the rudder for this, and then we will get into some of the basic fittings right here that would be the same color as the hull above the waterline. And we'll get those attached and give them a chance to cure with the cement in place. So let me get everything ready. I'll be right back. Well, since we've already conquered this part of page 19, almost like we're at the very end of the build, we're just not crazy enough to put everything else on this upper hull piece before we try to join it to the lower hull. Just want to go ahead and get these parts right here knocked out, as I mentioned earlier here. So I had a look at the parts, and actually I am quite pleased with what I found. So for instance, if we take a look at part B20 here, there are not any horrific mold seams on B20. Same thing here with the rest of them though. They're all really nicely molded. There's no horrible thick mold seams to deal with on the support legs here of these prop shaft supports. Nothing on the bottom side either. Everything looks very cleanly molded. So I'm going to go ahead and get these parts cut out and we'll move on. Alright, so this is B20, and I'm going to say cleanup on this went 10 times faster than any of the other ships, 1/200 scale or 1/350th scale that I've ever done. It went so fast. So I've got to say there are good parts and bad parts to this build. So this certainly being a good part in that these weren't a total pain to clean up. I'm gonna give it a show what that looks like there. And sorry about getting a little tongue-tied. But yeah, goes on cleanly, looks nice. Under some whole red paint, it'll definitely look the part. So go ahead and get a little bit of cement. Now these do not, the mounting holes for this do not go all the way through. So what I'm going to do here is, everything's under primer right now, so I'm going to end up putting quite a bit of extra thin on here, but what I'm going to do is make sure I'm careful that it does not flow over. I just want it to be on this mounting surface right here. All right, what I'm looking for is for the most of it is going to dry up, and then at that point it'll soften up the plastic, and we shouldn't have any significant gaps or anything like that in between this and the hole. That's the plan. I'm going to put up just a tad there and a tad here. All right. That's going to go ahead and we go. So part B20 is in place. Go ahead and get the rest of these taken off the sprue, cleaned up, and we'll watch the placement of them in a much faster pace. While I was at it, I went ahead and also freed up the rudder. This right here is not a great fit right there. I think I'm going to have to enlarge that hole, but we'll get to that here. I'm going to go ahead and start getting these on. Well, as I'm sure you saw there in the fast forward, the fit was good, but a bit loose maybe. And so you can see where I previously have put a little extra thin right there at all of the attachment points after I had already put them in place. So there is going to be a bit of cleanup to do after everything sets up and dries. But that's all right. For the most part, I'm pretty happy with the fit, and it looks good. So let me go ahead and bring this around here. Now getting this in here, we have one of two options. We can either enlarge the hole or we can thin down the post. Historically, enlarging the hole has been a little bit easier, so go ahead and see if something as simple as that allows us to put this in place. Yep, that's all it took. Alright, so the rudder looks properly oriented. And at this point I'm just going to go ahead and I can't really get to inside of the hole where this attaches. So we're going to go ahead and put some of the white cap Tamiya cement in here. That's a pretty nice press fit. Alright, lined up pretty good. Alright, so everything here except for the propellers on page 19 that we normally would do as kind of like the first step of any other ship model we've ever built, that's all done. So the only thing that we'll really be accomplishing here in Step 18, page 19 is where we attach the island and the funnel. So moving on back into the instructions here. And I want to go ahead and start looking at some of these parts. On the port side, it's going to be part B7 and B1. Got those right here. They're already off the sprue and cleaned up. In place just like that. So we're going to take a little bit of the white cap cement, and I'm not going to be real generous with the cement here. I just want a little bit just to kind of grace the inside of this right here, because I don't want any oozing out. See, just have a little bit on there. And
the most part, it just kind of does its thing and stays in place right there, just where I put it.
Alright, so that's B7. Next up is B1. B1 goes right here. Now there is a little bit of a cleanup to do right around the where these pins would fit into the holes right here on the hole. These holes had some flash around them, so it's just important to get that cleaned up so you don't run into fit issues after you get some cement on there and are ready to put your part in place. So we'll do something slightly similar here. White cap cement, and I'm going to go higher up on the part. And again, what I'm trying to avoid is any of the cement from oozing its way down onto the hole or outside of the joint here between the hole and this part. And all this really is just kind of a bit of a hole extension for a gun tub. That's what both B7 and B1 are. And looks like we've had a casualty there. So I can see what's going to be important here is allowing these to set up a little bit and then reinforcing with some extra thin. So I'm going to go ahead and give these a few minutes and come back and hit it from the inside with some extra. Alright, so those starboard pieces are, or I'm sorry, those port side pieces are in place right now. Now I'm not going to at this time put in these platforms or even their backer pieces. I'm not that worried about getting these blended into the hull as much as these when I put on the hull coat. And I've got some paints on order. I'm just waiting for them to come in, and I'm going to do a mix according to the internet, and I will talk about that when the time comes on what the proper color for that is. I will say this, Google's AI, Gemini, is a wonderful thing. Go ahead and put this, I don't know if I want to put it on its side just yet. Let's see. First thing that's going to happen is I'm going to have to take those, keep gluing those things back on. So I'll just try to play it carefully. So for this side, we've got B8 and B2. I'll go ahead and do about roughly the same thing I did over there. Now these I cleaned up in one of the previous videos already, so they're ready to go. And again, just hitting kind of the inside of this, as I want just a bare amount of glue contact from this part to the hole. Alright, so what I learned on that other side is, while I've got this in place, a little bit of extra thin quick setting works wonders for getting this to stay put. You just have to support this here for just a little bit here. And it's already there. Alright, as we can see here, it needs there. Now it's better. Now it's contacting the hull all the way around. And at that point I can take a little bit more of the extra thin and just let a drop hit it down there. And now I'll start to see a little bit of a wet line. kind of leaks in and starts dissolving a little bit of the Mr. Surfacer and starts melting the plastic. Yep, that looks good. I'm happy with that. Those other parts are still in place. So this part, and these are not interchangeable, by the way. B2 and B1, absolutely not interchangeable. So as you can see, they go at different spots in the hull, and they're slightly different shape, and one has portholes and the other does not. Go right there. It's got a good fit. Stuff like this, normally I like to hold with my fingers and keep it in place, but the problem is if any of the cement finds its way to down here, it's possible it'll wick up onto my fingers, and then, well, the battery on the camera decided to die right there mid-sentence. What I was saying was I don't want to hold this with my fingers, because if my fingers touching where some cement might run into, it might wick its way onto my finger and leave a fingerprint right there on the side of the hull, and I would prefer not to have to clean that up if I don't have to. Just a bit much. All right. That already sits pretty nicely in place. So again, I can take some of the extra thin quick setting just to kind of lock it in place right there. You know, I was wondering if any other manufacturers might ever one day take up building a kit of this, and I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It certainly would be welcome to see, because this isn't a terrible, it's not a terrible 1/350th scale kit, but there is a lot that there's a lot of room for improvement for it. Alright, so that looks good. Port and starboard on those are done. And then for the most part, we're going to go ahead and get some hull red on the bottom and call it a day. Will went ahead and fixed where these propeller shaft supports integrate into the hull. So now they look a little bit more seamless. Really happy with how that turned out. Just a little bit of putty and sanding, kind of blending it in. So now there's no real bad looking joints between the parts. And as you can also see, went ahead and got some hull red down. So after this gets cured up, I'm going to go ahead and attack everything with a waterline marker. That includes the USS Missouri. And I'm waiting for some paints to be delivered here so I can mix up some batches of the colors of paints that I want to put down on this. It's going to be a little bit different scheme than Missouri for this, since this is going to be in 1942, and I believe it was in a measure 21 if I read correctly. There's, you know, Google's Gemini really does a good job of scouring the internet, find out how other people have mixed up colors for their specific World War II schemes using Tamiya paints, and I love Tamiya paints just because they airbrush so smoothly. I mean, this paint went down just as smooth as butter. It is absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and put this out of the way. We'll have a look at our instructions to see what's upcoming. So besides the paint that we're going to talk about, we're going to start working on getting some of these platforms done. A lot of that is going to need some pre-paint before installation. And these are mainly just anti-aircraft gun tubs. In addition, we want to start getting working on getting the deck in there with its gun tubs. And some of these right here, these are emplacements for ship's boats. So we'll get those on there as well. And as you can all see, there's a little bit of lattice-like support going in the aft section of the ship to kind of hold up some of that platform for those gun tubs. So I think our next episode should be dealing with paint and getting the gun tubs prepped and getting them put in. Maybe even the 3 anchors, and maybe we'll even have a look at some of these guns here. While I'm at it, I want to give a special shout out to someone special. She knows who she is. Today is her birthday. Happy birthday. I love you. Well, until our next video, please stay safe and happy modeling.